Thought it was a great take. All right, guys, I'm really loving this. Hey, man, I haven't talked to Vince Ferragamo in a long time. Jackie Slater, last time I saw him was with my wife. We were at the Super Bowl. I can't remember, maybe San Francisco. And I played against Jackie Slater. I got to say this to you. Let's bring on Jackie Slater and Vince Ferragamo.
Hey guys.
Vince, thank you for doing it. Hey, Vince.
Yes.
One of the greatest things, I was playing against Jackie when the guys were playing in Anaheim. And he was playing next to my friend Dennis Harum. And I had never been hit in the head with the famous – yep. I've never have ever – I played next to Jerome at Miami, and I've never had the headbutt. He made me go from 6'2" to 5'4" within 2 seconds. I'm on my hands and knees. I'm like, I've never had anybody headbutt me like that. And that's my introduction to Jackie Slater. How you guys doing, man? Thank you guys so much for doing this.
Oh, man, glad to be able to join you, Vince and I.
You're welcome. It's a good thing you didn't have the pads on. You would have probably been 4'8".
Hey, let's start with you, Jackie. Is this Rams team the product now of what you guys thought this team would look like at the beginning of the year as they're starting to get healthier?
Yes, it is. It really is. In fact, I would tell you, go so far as to say that for me, this team now is starting to be more like the team that we saw a couple of years ago when they went on their march to the Super Bowl. They haven't replaced Aaron Donald, but they've come pretty close to it with all of those young kids that they have getting after the quarterback and playing at the line of scrimmage that they have now.
Now, this is like life after Aaron Donald, but Jackie's always been more optimistic about the Rams than I have been. But they've won the last 4 out of 5 games, so they're starting to pick up a little bit of momentum. And Matt Stafford had his best game last week against New England, so we'll see what happens.
Vince, what separates Matthew Stafford from other quarterbacks that, one of the greatest throwers of the football? I mean, he didn't really have great personnel outside of Megatron up in Detroit. Now he's got a great play caller in McVey. It looks like he got a running back that you guys have found from Notre Dame. The offensive line, they're getting the ball out of his hands. But what separates him, Vince, from other quarterbacks that have played in the league?
Well, his resiliency, his toughness. He's been through it all, in Detroit, with ups and downs, with good teams and bad teams. But I like the way he's always bounced back, even with this team, with a reduced roster. He was able to go out and compete to a top level. And that just shows what kind of leadership he has to offer the team. He's one of the most experienced quarterbacks in the league today. Right. But, that's really actually showing, and it's a good thing for the Rams because now with Sean McVey at the helm, I mean, you can see the level of perfection and performance levels that he's had, especially with Cooper Kupp and a guy like Puka Nacua. So
we were just talking about this as we did our podcast, Vince Ferragamo and Jackie Slater on Point Live. We were just talking about the type of talent that we're seeing in the National Football League today at the wide receiver position. And if you were to go almost any team that there is out there, and you were to pick the fastest, you could go down to Miami and get the little kid down there that runs so fast. The fastest, Tyreek Hill. You could pick several different guys that you will say were better athletes than the 2 Ram receivers, Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. But what you won't find is any 2 receivers that understands the scheme that they're in and understand how to read defenses and take advantage of defenses. No one does it any better than those 2 guys. Both of them had 6 and 7 receptions this past week for over 100 yards, and they're just dominant players.
Jackie, the drafting over the last 2 years by Les Snead and Kevin Demoff has been absolutely insane. I mean, you get Kobe last year, was a 3rd rounder out of Wake Forest. Look at what you guys are now doing now. You find a running back from Notre Dame, Puka Nacua. Now you also got Fisk and Burst. I mean, this has to be a pretty good turnaround here since the Super Bowl, where you guys put all your chips in the middle with all that money that you spent on those veteran guys. This has been a real big turnaround pretty fast. No, you surprised.
It's been a big turnaround. And if you look at last year, I think no one expected the Rams to play as well as they did last year with all of those young guys. And then Kobe Turner, the conductor, as they call him, he came right on and he sack record for the Rams. The record that Aaron Donald had established as a rookie. So they got better. I'm not saying he's the Aaron Donald, but they got better and younger at the same time. You have to take your hat off to the administration at the Rams and the job that they're doing of acquiring talent, obviously, and then putting leadership in place to coach that talent and do a fantastic job with it. That's what it's all about. You look at around the National Football League, all you have to do is look at the new hires at the new hires that the general managers are making and how they're impacting the team. The guy that comes to my mind is Austin Fort, who was with the Patriot organization for years under Bill Belichick. He goes and he hires Jonathan Gannon from Philadelphia, a defensive-minded young guy. And what do? They blew the Rams out. They beat San Francisco to a pulp. They hired people that counters the strength of the coaching staffs in their division. And you can't say enough about it. I think the Rams administration has done a fantastic job.
Vince, let me ask you about play calling. And Vince, when you're talking about a guy in Sean McVey, what's funny, guys, I'll give you a little history with Sean McVey. John McVey, obviously, is his grandfather, was part of that 49er build when they were building that dynasty up there. He was a ball boy when I was on the air in Tampa, I think for John Gruden, and this guy would just hang around. And all of a sudden, he became a quality control coach, and now Vince, he's one of the best play calling head coaches in the National Football League. Every time I talk to Sean, he goes, "Hey, I told him you guys were coming on earlier. I sent him a text. I go, hey, I talked to Vince about a game that he played in 1978. I took a play out of that. It was a hitch play I'm like, how do you know that? I mean, this guy, he looks at the history of the game. What separates him as a play caller?
Well, knowledge and past experience and history and being part of it as a kid growing up has certainly a lot to do with it. I mean, his reactionary time that he has, he processes information so quickly, but it's more importantly than the play calling. It's the way they teach it, because great coaches are great teachers, and he teaches it well. Jackie and I both have attended some of their preseason camps that they've had and sat in some of their meeting rooms and listened to the way he describes certain routes. You wouldn't believe the technicality of how they run routes. That's how they get open. And you watch guys getting wide open, and Matt Stafford can deliver the ball any which way. It really helps this team develop. I mean, and that's the mark of a good coach and a mark of a good organization and team.
Jack?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Go ahead, Jackie. Go ahead.
I was going to say additionally, you have to look at Ram ownership. Stan Kroenke and his staff, vice president, and all those guys, they looked at what is going on in the National Football League and what the rules say you can do and what you can't do. And they have systematically gone about the business of acquiring players that allows them to take advantage of the rules. I mean, I don't know if you noticed this, but one of the things that I've noticed is that every team in the National Football League right now seems to have a guy on their roster that 20 years ago we would have said, oh, well, he's too small. He's fast, but he's too small. I mean, you look at a guy like Tutu Atwell. Yeah. Tutu Atwell, who's a maybe third or fourth receiver for the Rams, probably weighs 150 pounds, Vince.
If that.
He probably weighs 150 pounds. But every time he's on the field, he's impactful because of his unique physique, his speed, his quickness, his size. He's always put in a position where the man that's having to deal with him can't run and be with him simply because he's too slow or not quick enough. It's amazing the science that has gone into player acquisition and the way you use those guys. And I think the Rams are doing it better than anybody right now.
Last question for you guys here. I'll start with you, Jackie. Can this team make a run, the Rams? They got a big one coming up Sunday, obviously, against the Eagles coming into town there at SoFi. Can they make a run at a playoff?
Well, I certainly think so. And it's funny you would notice this Eagle game this coming week because it's going to be a huge test. In my opinion, one of the strengths of the Rams right now is the dynamic energy that you see play in and play out by this defensive unit. And it starts with the guys up front, Fisk, Jay Verse, Brown. All these guys can get after the quarterback. And it takes a lot of pressure off of the secondary. Even though their secondary has been a good job covering. I think of Lake, they moved him into a slot cover guy. He can handle almost anybody inside there. So the thing that is going to test the Rams this week more than anything else is they're getting ready to go against arguably the best offensive line in all of pro football at this particular point in time. And that's going to be a major chore to overcome. Hopefully, they can get in there and play well against some of these guys. But when you think about Lane Johnson and whoever he's going to be dealing with, and it's going to be a chore. This is going to be one of the tougher games for the Rams. And if they win this game, I think there's a good possibility that now they get on a roll and have a legitimate shot at the playoffs.
Can they, Vince, in your opinion, get on that roll?
Well, they've won 4 out of 5 games, and what's building in the Ram organization right now is confidence, and that's the number one key for any young team. So, the sky is the limit. They really don't know how good they can become at this point. So, as Jackie said, I mean, if their defense continues to turn it up, I mean, anything's possible. And offensively, Sean McVey is believing in the run a little bit more. So if they can get more balance with their team and just approach each game like it's the last game, I mean, they can make a run, but they're going to have to win the West to get in the playoffs. So that means overcoming Arizona. But the good thing is they have Arizona, Seattle, and the 49ers again. So if they play well in those games as well, they might be able to pull it off.
That man right there, Vince Ferragamo, is the man that took over for one of my dear friends, God rest his soul, David Hum. And there is the man right there.
And he was the best.
Absolutely. There's the man who blocked for Walter Payton in college and also Eric Dickerson when he was with the Rams. Guys, thank you guys so much for taking time, man. I really appreciate it. A real treat. Thank you, guys.
All right, guys. Arrivederci. Take it easy.
You bet, man. Fantastic stuff there, man. Great stuff there. We really appreciate those guys doing that for us. Jackie Slater, obviously, Pro Football Hall of Famer. Vince Ferragamo played on that Super Bowl Rams team that lost that really close one at the Rose Bowl when they were playing the Steelers. Really just a fabulous, fabulous game. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Vince started at Cal, and then he went to Nebraska. And Jackie, of course, one of the greatest HBCU players in the history of college football. And my friend Doug Williams, who's got a lot to do with the Hall of Fame with the HBCU, is awesome. We really appreciate those guys doing it. Guys, thank you so much. Tomorrow, 2 to 6, Big Z and Xander, thank you guys again. We so appreciate it. Hit that like button. We'll see you on the flip side.